The emotion of fear has long been thought to be important to the human experience. However, fear itself is also an extremely complex phenomenon. This is reflected in our experience of emotions. Try to think about a time when you experienced fear, and remember how your psychology changed. We may be looking up at a majestic mountain range, or watching the lightning bolts that seem to rip through the sky. Or we stand under a clear night sky and see millions of tiny stars hanging high above. Although the sky is vast, the part we see is only representative of an extremely small part that exists in the existing universe. Are we feeling trembling because the vastness of the universe partly reflects our smallness in it? The existence of any kind of fear in this world tends to push our minds into a place of insecurity and anxiety. The existence of any kind of fear in this world tends to push our minds into a place of insecurity and anxiety. It is as if a powerful catalyst acts on our defense mechanism. When we are faced or anticipated about a threatening or dangerous situation that may occur, our minds will now begin to be more vigilant, unintentionally pushes our body to take coping actions, making choices to either face it or run away. There is an interesting point when the feeling of fear appears. People often tend to become frozen. Science calls this phenomenon behavioral inhibition, created by the amygdala. When stress activates the amygdala, it temporarily suppresses conscious thoughts, allowing the body to shift all of its energy to deal with the threat. Accordingly, the body releases nervous substances and hormones that increase heart rate and breathing, sends less blood to the intestines and more blood to the muscles for fighting or running. Fear stems from many different causes. Depending on each person's age, personality, gender, and life experiences, they are formed. However, in general, fear comes from situations and things that we think affect and threaten our health and life. Besides, psychology is considered one of the most basic and common sources that can cause many invisible fears. Typically, these fears are related to the living environment and past experiences. For instance, demons are one of the biggest fears for both children and adults. Even though we don't know their appearance, we've never met them, or we can't even determine whether ghosts really exist or not. But there are still many people who feel scared about this, especially when they are alone at night. Some people also have a fear of objects or situations that have caused psychological trauma in the past, especially in childhood. According to scientific research, phobias of the past often originate from traumatic events, depending on the brain's tolerance threshold and each person's life experience. The level of obsession about past events is different. An event for one person may be normal, but for another, it becomes an unforgettable obsession and fear. For example, some people are always haunted by boycotts, bullying, and school violence. Later, even when I went to other schools, I was still very afraid of bullying situations, which sometimes were just normal teasing. They may become lacking in confidence and not dare to make friends. People who have been divorced may always be haunted by the idea that they cannot have a long-lasting, happy family, so they don't dare start a new relationship. Humans are the strongest creatures but also the weakest. It is difficult to say how an event can become a haunting of the past. However, it is not difficult to see the impact of this psychological condition on health. Living in the past makes them always think about negative things, worries, and fears that they cannot escape. They become more and more miserable and hopeless, losing confidence in themselves, doubting people around them, not finding joy in life. The spirit becomes increasingly exhausted. Some people will express their emotions outwardly, and comforting words can relieve their sadness somewhat. But some people just hide all their thoughts in their hearts, wanting to hide their painful past and endure it themselves. Although they may be smiling on the outside, inside their souls, there are very deep cuts that are difficult to heal. Obsession with past events causes us to avoid social situations and spaces that remind us of the event. This causes our study, work, and personal relationships to be significantly affected. Living in fear of the past can also lead to many psychological and mental problems, such as anxiety disorders, phobias, depression, etc. These are extremely dangerous psychological problems that can lead to states of irritation, panic when encountering images, and situations similar to past fears, or maybe they tend to hurt themselves to relieve stress and fear. In addition to the above issues, researchers on this topic also discovered many interesting things behind the above factors. For example, right-handed people tend to be more anxious than left-handed people, or the fact that women in general tend to have more fear than men. And one more special thing, the feeling of fear is sometimes beneficial. This state makes people more cautious when making decisions, thereby reducing haste, which is the cause of failure at work. Additionally, some of the body's reactions against dangerous states may be involved in mechanisms that were once useful to human ancestors, but are no longer valuable to humans today. For example, the fact that fear makes people's skin crawl and the hairs on their arms stand up is generally ineffective in helping them fight or escape enemies. However, humans' hairy ancestors help them look bigger and more majestic. Faced with fear, some people can hold on until they realize they are no longer in danger and gradually adapt to the initial fear. Some even deliberately seek to experience fear by watching horror movies, play dangerous games, or do anything new that creates an immediate sense of danger. Then, they can enjoy the results of the chemical reactions after extreme fear. It was euphoric, the goosebumps were relieved, and a feeling of relief appeared in the body. Here comes another aspect that we can consider exploiting to clarify this phenomenon. That's the mystery behind the correlation between fear and wonder. To shed more light on this factor, researchers hypothesized in 2012 that if the feeling of fear allows us to process rich information from our environment, it will focus our attention on what is happening in the present moment, thereby expanding our perception of time. Additionally, in sharp contrast to other positive emotions, fear is not expressed by smiling. Instead, the eyebrows are raised, the eyes widen, the jaw drops, and breathing is visible. These breathtaking displays of wonder can help enhance visual perception and moderate physiological stimulation. Therefore, fear stimulates our attention to the present, shifting the goal of drawing our attention outward, and makes us feel more connected on a larger scale. Melanie Rudd and colleagues also argue that, by focusing our attention on the present, fear can amplify the feeling of enjoying enjoyable moments. But many of the deeper consequences of fear remain unknown. For example, can an inspiring experience have far-reaching effects? Is it possible to constantly feel awe? Or is it a feeling we quickly get used to? In fact, some people are naturally more likely to benefit from fear than others, because some people will be more fearful than others. So perhaps the million-dollar question is, can we design interventions to exploit and promote the development of health and social foundations through fear?